My partner left me for her lover, and he came to my house with their 3 children to kick me out.
You think you can sit in this fancy house all alone with your baby while my kids suffer?
I'm Noah, a 34-year-old photographer who recently transitioned to being a full-time dad. My world, once framed through the lens of my camera, now revolved around the tiny bundle of joy sleeping in the next room.
But beneath the surface of this newfound fatherhood, something was amiss. The house, our once beloved sanctuary, felt like a hollow echo of its former self. The grandeur of the terrace where Mia and I used to share dreams over morning coffees now seemed to mock me with its emptiness. The garden, meticulously cared for, stood silent, a witness to the growing void between us. I still remember the day I came home from the hospital, our baby boy cradled in my arms. I expected warmth, tears of joy, anything. Instead, Mia greeted us with a glance that barely concealed her indifference. Honey, aren't you excited?
Say hello to your son, I nudged, trying to mask the tremble in my voice. Mia barely glanced at our baby, her eyes void of the spark I used to know.
Yeah, he's great. I'm just not good with babies, you know? Give me time.
It wasn't just the baby, the Mia I knew, the one I fell in love with, seemed to have vanished. Each day, she'd return from work, her face a mask of fatigue, her words sparse and hollow. One evening, as I rocked our son to sleep, the silence became unbearable.
Mia, we need to talk. This distance between us, it's not just about the baby, is it?
She sighed, her attention fixed on some distant point beyond the walls of our once happy home.
Noah, don't start. I'm tired. Work's a mess.
I don't need another lecture. I felt a pang of anger mixed with a dose of fear.
Lecture?
Mia, look at us, at our family.
You're a mother now, and I feel like I'm doing this all alone.
She finally looked at me, her eyes cold and distant.
What do you want from me, Noah? A parade? I'm here, I'm working, I'm providing. What more do you want?
The words stung, each one a reminder of the chasm that had formed between us.
I want you, Mia.
The woman I married, the woman who promised to be by my side, not a shadow that haunts this house. She stood up, her frustration evident.
I can't deal with this right now. I'm not the enemy, Noah. Maybe you're the one who changed.
Life after bringing our son home wasn't the blissful picture I had painted in my mind, it was more like a puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit. Mia, the woman I vowed to spend my life with, was the piece that had shifted the most. Her late nights at work were becoming a pattern, a repeat of a past I thought we had buried deep. One chilly evening, as I cradled our son, trying to soothe his fussiness, the sound of the front door creaking open broke the monotony. Mia walked in, her face drawn, her eyes avoiding mine. Back late again, I said, my voice laced with a tiredness that went beyond physical.
Mia just grunted, tossing her keys on the table. Work's a mess. You wouldn't understand.
The sharpness in her tone stung.
Wouldn't understand? Mia, I've been there. Remember the late nights in the studio, the deadlines?
I get it, but this is different.
You're different.
She scoffed, adjusting her blazer with a jerk.
Different how? Because I'm trying to provide for this family? Because I'm not jumping with joy every minute?
I bit back the retort that sprang to my lips, choosing my words carefully.
It's not about providing, Mia. It's about being present.
You barely look at your son, you barely talk to me.
It's like you're here, but you're not.
She looked at me then, her eyes hard.
What do you want from me, Noah?
I'm working my ass off every day, coming home to do this. She gestured vaguely around the room, and all I get is complaints.
The hurt was raw and real. Complaints? Is that what you think this is? Mia, I'm worried about us, about you. I see how you avoid us, how you're pulling away. It reminds me, the air turned icy. Mia's face tightened, her jaw clenching. Before you're bringing that up again, I thought we were past that, Noah. I thought we agreed to leave that behind.
I held our son closer, his small warmth a stark contrast to the chill between us.
Leave it behind? Is it true, Mia? You're with him?
She tried to grab the phone, but I pulled away, my eyes never leaving hers.
So it's true then?
The late nights, the distance, it wasn't just work, it was him. Mia sank into a chair, her facade shattered.
Noah, listen, it's not what you think. I laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in the silence. Not what I think. Mia, the pictures don't lie.
You have a whole other family.
How long? How long have you been lying to me?
She buried her face in her hands, a defeated figure.
A few years. It started small. I didn't mean for it to go this far. A few years.
The words hung in the air, a testament to the lie my life had become.
And the children, Mia? Are they yours?
She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. The truth was right there in the silence, in the photos, in the years of deceit.
You need to leave, Mia.
Now, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. With that, she left, the sound of the closing door marking the end of our story. I sat there alone, holding our son, the only real thing in the mess that was my life.
Just when the dust seemed to be settling, life decided to throw another curveball.
I was in the middle of a feeding session with my son when the doorbell rang, slicing through the quiet of the afternoon. Expecting maybe a delivery or a neighbor, I was completely taken aback to see Mia looking sheepish and a man I recognized from the photos, the other man, standing boldly in my doorway. Before I could even react, he pushed past me into the house, his eyes roaming around, taking in every detail of the home I had put my heart into.
This is quite the place you've got here, Noah. Cozy and spacious, perfect for a family, don't you think, he said, his voice dripping with a mix of mockery and entitlement.
Mia didn't meet my gaze, her shame was evident, but her voice was silent. I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my composure in the face of this intrusion.
And what family would that be? Because the last time I checked, this was my home, I retorted, standing protectively in front of my son's crib.
He smirked, a calculated glint in his eye.
Well, the family Mia should have been with all along, me and our 3 kids.
You see, we need this house more than you do. A big, beautiful house for a big family.
You understand, right?
The audacity of his words struck a nerve. I was fuming, each word from his mouth fueling my anger.
Understand? I understand perfectly.
You're delusional if you think you can just barge in here and lay claim to what's mine. Mia has no right to this house, and neither do you. Mia finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper.
Noah, maybe we should discuss this.
Discuss? I snapped, my patience wearing thin.
You think after everything we're just going to sit down and have a chat about you handing over my house to your lover and your other children?
The man paced around, his eyes scanning the room like a hawk.
Look, Noah, it's simple. You've got 1 kid, a small apartment will do. We've got 3, we need the space. It's only fair.
Fair? The word echoed in my mind, a cruel joke in the face of everything that was happening.
Fair? You want to talk about fair? There's nothing fair about betrayal, about lies, about breaking a family.
You have no idea what fair is. He turned to Mia, seeking affirmation.
Tell him, Mia. Tell him we'll be moving in. You've got a week to clear out.
Mia avoided my gaze, her shoulders slumped, the picture of defeat and cowardice.
Noah, I don't know what to say.
The standoff was tense, the air thick with unsaid words and unspoken threats. But as they left, the man throwing a spiteful glance over his shoulder and Mia not even daring to look back, I knew that this was far from over. After the door slammed shut behind Mia and her lover, I was left standing in the silence of my home, my mind racing. The nerve of them coming into my house, threatening to take everything I had. But as the initial shock subsided, a plan began to form.
It was time to reveal the truth, time to claim what was rightfully mine. The doorbell rang, its chime echoing like the start of a showdown.
There they stood, Mia looking more defeated than ever and her lover, his arrogance undiminished.
Time's up, Noah. We're here to move in.
Did you pack your stuff? He demanded, his eyes gleaming with remained silent, her shoulders slumped in defeat. The charade was over, the truth lay bare for all to see. You've been living in a fantasy fed by Mia's lies, but it ends now, I declared, my voice firm. You have no place here. It's time for you both to leave. The confrontation was intense, the air thick with tension and unsaid words. As they turned to leave, the lovers' parting glance was filled with venom and vows of revenge.
This isn't the end, Noah.
You'll regret this, he hissed, his dreams shattered by the harsh light of truth. It was a crisp morning, the kind that usually promised a peaceful start, but peace was a luxury I could no longer afford. The sound of the doorbell shattered the calm like a rock through a window. As I opened the door, my heart sank. There he stood, Mia's lover, his face twisted into a smirk, his children huddled behind him. You've got some nerve showing up here again, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. The lover didn't falter.
I've got every right, Noah.
These kids, he gestured to the innocent faces behind him, they deserve a proper home, your home.
I couldn't help but scoff. Deserve? The only thing you deserve is a reality check. This is my house, and you're not welcome here.
His smirk widened, his voice growing louder.
Oh, I'm not welcome? We'll see about that. You think you can just sit in this big fancy house all alone with your baby while my kids suffer? You're more heartless than I thought.
His words, sharp and accusatory, were meant to wound, and they did.
But I wasn't about to let him see that. Heartless?
I'm not the one tearing families apart, disrupting lives.
You did that all on your own.
The neighbors, drawn by the shrill voice, had begun to gather, their whispers like a chorus in the background. He relished the audience, his theatrics reaching new heights.
Look at this, folks. Noah here thinks he's too good to share. Thinks this palace is only for him and his baby. What about my children? Don't they deserve a home too?
I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to slam the door in his face. Your children deserve better, that's for sure, better than a father who uses them as pawns in his twisted games. He stepped closer, his eyes flashing with anger.
You think you can judge me, Noah? You, who had everything handed to him on a silver platter.
My kids have had to fight for every little thing in their lives, and now you want to deny them a roof over their heads?
I shook my head, disbelief and anger swirling inside me. I'm not denying them anything.
Their mother, the woman you stole from me, she's the one you should be looking at.
She's the one who's failed them.
The lover's face reddened, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water.
Mia promised us a better life. She promised we'd have this house. Are you going to stand there and tell me those were all lies?
His words hung heavy in the air, a painful reminder of Mia's betrayal. Promises from Mia aren't worth much these days, it seems.
But one thing's for sure, this house isn't part of her empty promises. It's mine, and you have no claim to it.
He bristled, his composure slipping.
I'm leaving, Noah. Not until you do right by these kids. I'll camp out here if I have to.
I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of cold-hearted bastard lives in this mansion. I stared at him, the absurdity of the situation hitting me full force.
You're going to camp out on my property? I don't think so.
This is your last warning, leave now, or I'll call the police. His eyes darted around the gathered neighbors, serving as his audience, but the resolve in my voice must have hit a nerve. He gathered his children, his parting shot a venomous glare.
This isn't over, Noah.
You think you've won, but you've just started a war. The drama of the previous week still hung heavy in my home, like a cloud refusing to move on. I was Noah, a man who thought he had seen it all until the doorbell rang again, bringing a chapter one thought I had closed. There she was, Mia, standing on my doorstep, her face a mixture of regret and desperation. The sight of her after everything sparked a fury I hadn't known I possessed.
What are you doing here, Mia? Haven't you done enough?
I spat, my words sharp and unforgiving. She looked down, her hands fidgeting nervously.
Noah, I need to talk to you. It's important. I crossed my arms, my stance, you have to live with it. We are moving on without you.
Her shoulders slumped, defeat etched into every line of her face.
Noah, please don't do this. Think of our son. He needs his mother.
I felt a pain in my heart for the life we could have had, for the family that was broken beyond repair.
He needed his mother, and where were you? With him? With them? You're not the woman we need, Mia. It's time you realize that.
She stood there for a moment longer, a woman lost in the ruins of her own making. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away, her figure disappearing into the night. The final pieces of my old life had fallen away, leaving space for something new, something mine. The divorce papers were signed, and Mia was now just a person from my past, a shadow that no longer darkened my door. She was ordered to pay alimony for our son, a small justice in the grand scheme of things.
Sitting in my quiet living room, I reflected on the tumultuous journey.
The phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was Luke, his voice carrying the latest gossip.
Hey, Noah, you won't believe this. Mia and her lover are crammed into a tiny apartment.
Word is they do nothing but fight day in and day out.
I couldn't help but feel a twinge of vindication. Well, can't say I'm surprised. You reap what you sow, right? Luke chuckled. True that. How are you holding up, though? All this must be tough.
I took a sip of my tea, its warmth was comforting.
It's been a ride, Luke, but I'm getting there. Each day feels a bit lighter, a bit more mine. You're the strongest person I know, Noah. And hey, if you need anything, I'm just a call away, all right?
His words were a balm, soothing the lingering sting of the past.
Thanks, Luke. I really appreciate it.
The conversation drifted to lighter topics, the normalcy a welcome change. After hanging up, I gazed around the room. This was my space, my sanctuary. The battles fought within these walls had left scars, but they were healing, turning into stories of strength and resilience. I picked up my camera, an old friend I had neglected. The weight of it in my hands felt right. I snapped a few pictures of the room, of my son's toys, of the life that was slowly piecing itself back together. Each click of the shutter was a declaration, a statement that while the past was a part of me, it didn't define me. As I put my son to bed that night, his tiny hand clutching my finger, I whispered promises of a future bright and unburdened. Outside, the stars twinkled, a vast canvas of possibilities stretching out before us. Mia and her lover were just a chapter closed, a lesson learned. Our story, the one that truly mattered, was just beginning, and it was going to be a beautiful one.